the healthcare system. We have children developing type 2 diabetes. That's the kind you give yourself, not the kind you're born with. And I have done everything I could with the American Heart Association to try to stop the explosion of childhood obesity and stop this explosion of diabetes and turn it around. We seem to have slowed it down and maybe stopped it, but this is hard. The only point I'm trying to say is, you're talking about fixing the financial system, making the housing market work again, changing the whole energy basis of America so we can generate millions of jobs, fight climate change, increase our national security. This is hard. It's one thing to talk about it and another thing to do. Right? Right. It's another thing. You can say we're spending 50% more on health care than anybody in the world, and still we don't insure 16% of our people, and it's so bad that we're now down to 29th in infant mortality, and 1 in 8 people with cancer can't afford their medicine this year and may die sooner. All kinds of working Americans with things like multiple sclerosis, something I know quite a bit about, or Lou Gehrig's disease, or muscular dystrophy, that can manage their diseases and live longer, better lives, need an MRI once a year so they'll know exactly where they are, and they can manage their medicine, their diet, their exercise. Enormous numbers of them can no longer afford the copay for that. It's one thing to talk about that and another to figure out how to do it. So for me, since I spend most of my life now trying to help people here and around the world turn their good intentions into real changes, this is a very big deal. And maybe there's a leap of faith involved with anybody. But just think about this. When Senator Obama started his campaign, he had this idea that if he got enough young people mobilized, even if he lost the primary states, he could win enough caucus states to get more votes and to get the nomination. He figured out how to do that, to win the caucus state. He had this idea that even if he didn't know a lot of big donors outside of New York and Chicago, if he got enough people to give over the internet, there were so many people now on the internet who could give small amounts of money, he could raise an unprecedented amount of money in smaller amounts. And goodness knows, he did that. He had an idea that so many people were now active on the internet, mostly young people, but increasingly people of all ages, that he could create whole new communities out of the imagination. And I'll just give you one example. The other day I went back to Arkansas to try to carry my native state, and I went with the current governor and 3 other people who, like me, were formerly governors, including 2 who were my senators. And one of the former governors, who's a year older than I am, and who's been my friend for 40 years, said, "Bill, you won't believe this. I gave $250 to Barack Obama the other day in response to a plea that says, give us money and we'll match it." He said, within 15 minutes, I had my first $50 match. And I met over the internet this woman from California. Within an hour and a half, all 5 of my $50 matches for my $250 contributions had emailed me, and we were in touch. We had a whole new community. He said, then a half an hour later, I got a letter, an email message saying, we need help calling seniors in Pennsylvania and Ohio. Will you do it? I said, yes. Immediately, I got 10 names and phone numbers in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and he said, as soon as this rally's over, I'm going home to make the calls. Anybody can figure out how to do that, can figure out how to turn good intentions into real changes in your life. Don't leave anybody alone. When you walk out of here, if you pass somebody on the street, walk up to a total stranger. Say, this country's in trouble. We got to get it out of the ditch. We've got to bring our troops home from Iraq. We've got to take care of our veterans. We've got to rebuild the military. We've got to say to the world, we want a strong military, but from now on, military force will be a last resort, not a first time. We are going to rebuild the American dream for the 21st century, rebuild the middle class, and give poor people a chance to work their way into it. And thank you very much. There'll still be plenty of opportunity for people to make $1 million, even more, in the old-fashioned way. You were good to me, to Hillary, to our family, and it turned out to be pretty good for America. Hillary and I have done everything we could to make sure that we have a united party, but not only that, that people who aren't active Democrats can at least hear this simple message. We have to change. We can't keep on doing what we've been doing. Our candidates should be elected for these 4 reasons: better philosophy, better policy, better ability to understand and explain, and better ability to turn good intentions into positive changes in the lives of every single American.